The salt wind whipped against the lighthouse, a lonely, groaning sentinel on the jagged cliffs. Ilara had relished the silence, the solitude of being the temporary keeper. For a week, it had been bliss. But that night, the silence changed. It started with a scrape. A faint, dry sound from the service room, like a heavy box being dragged an inch. Ilara froze, her book hovering in her lap. She listened, her own heartbeat a frantic drum in her ears. Nothing. She told herself it was the old structure settling, the sea playing tricks. She forced her eyes back to the page, but the words were just shapes. Then came the giggle. It was high, tinkling, and utterly devoid of joy. It seemed to come from the spiraling staircase above, then, a moment later, from the damp storeroom below. A child's laugh in a place no child had ever been. Ilara stood, her chair screeching against the stone floor. Hello? Her voice was a timid thing, swallowed by the vast, cylindrical dark. Silence answered. A heavy, waiting silence. She grabbed the heavy-duty flashlight, its beam a shaky sword cutting through the gloom. She swept it up the corkscrew stairs, the metal steps groaning under her weight. Up in the lamproom, the great glass panels were black, reflecting only her own pale, frightened face. The giant lens was still, cold. She was alone. Back in the living quarters, a new chill gripped her. The single, worn armchair by the fireplace was now facing the wall. She had been sitting in it just an hour ago, and it had faced the room. Her breath hitched. This was no trick of the wind. A soft, rhythmic thump, 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 began from the bedroom. It sounded like a ball being bounced. Slowly. Deliberately. Trembling, she pushed the door open. The room was empty. But on the neatly made bed, centered perfectly on the pillow, sat a small, porcelain doll. It hadn't been there before. It wore a faded lace dress, its painted blue eyes staring vacantly, a faint, ceramic smile on its lips. It was Anabelle. Ilara's blood ran cold. She stumbled back, a scream trapped in her throat. She had to get out. Now. She fled down the stairs, her flashlight beam jittering wildly, creating dancing, monstrous shadows on the curved walls. As she passed the service room door, she glimpsed something inside. She swung the light back. The doll was now sitting on the workbench, its head tilted. Its smile seemed wider. A sob escaped Ilara's lips. She ran for the heavy oak door, the only way out. Her hands fumbled with the deadbolt. It was stuck. She yanked at it, tears blurring her vision, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if an immense, invisible weight was pressed against the other side. From the darkness behind her, the giggle came again. Closer this time. Right behind her ear. She spun around, pressing her back against the unyielding door. The beam of her flashlight swept across the base of the stairs. And there it was. The doll was standing upright at the bottom step. It wasn't propped. It was standing. One of its porcelain hands was raised, a single finger pointing directly at her. The flashlight flickered, died, and plunged her into absolute blackness. In the suffocating dark, a new sound began. The soft, shuffling scrape of tiny, dragging footsteps, moving closer and closer through the void, until she could feel the cold of its porcelain skin mere inches from her face. She thought she was alone in the lighthouse. But that night, something else was living there too, and it had no intention of letting her leave.